All right, we're back. It is COMP1073. That's client-side scripting in the winter 2017 semester, if I can speak today, at Georgian. And it's week 2, part 1 of our broadcast. And we're going to continue the stuff we started last week. One of the questions I just asked before we started was, what's the difference between Git and GitHub? There's a difference. And you said you don't know there's a difference. Can anyone name a difference? What's the difference between the two things? What is Git and what is GitHub? Yeah, go ahead.
I'll take it. Yes, it is. I believe GitHub is like remote. You're uploading Git remotely, and Git is local to your machine.
That's good. So the answer was GitHub is remote, right? And Git is local. True, right? So Git is the revision control system we install locally on our machines, okay? Git itself has nothing to do with GitHub. GitHub is a cloud service, software as a service that's being offered to us that we can use in order for us to take our local repository, all of our local snapshots of our program, and put it on the web, on a cloud service where we can share things. What are the 3 things? Backup, revision control, so version control, and some kind of collaboration. Those are the 3 reasons why we use GitHub, right? If I wanted to, though, I could just use Git locally, right? But then I don't have access to it. It's locked inside your machine. What I'm asking for your assignment number 1 and all the assignments we're going to do together is a GitHub link, which means you got to take the local repository, upload it to your remote, and work with it throughout the life cycle of your application that you're building, right? Because when we build stuff with JavaScript, it's no longer just a website. We're building web applications. Okay, I'll be right back. Just gonna close the door. So web applications. Remember, we're talking about client-side scripting here. And client-side means it's only on this side of the server. Server-side scripting would be on the back end. Client-side scripting is always sometimes often referred to as the front end, right? Things like it kind of combines with HTML5 and CSS3. Let's take a look at assignment number 1. Now, you might say, whoa, assignment number 1 already? Tom, are you kidding me? That's crazy, right? We got to get cracking on this course because if we don't, we have lots to cover and not enough time to go through everything. So assignment number 1, I've posted up on Blackboard, right? So that is in here. Let's take a look at it and what I'm looking for. Again, remember I talked about one of the 4 assignments you're going to be building. They're all worth 15% of your final grade, right? All of them. This one is fairly straightforward, right? You're building a mini portfolio site. Now this is due Tuesday, January the 31st. It's a couple weeks and the day before class. That we normally have class on the Wednesdays. This will be due on the night before class, okay? So what am I asking you to build? 3 pages. That's what I'm asking you to put together. 3 pages, all about you, okay? 1 page, the main page, right, is kind of all about you, and it should include a personal logo. Anyone ever not build a personal logo for themselves? If you never built a personal logo, this is your chance, right? What does that mean? Do you have to be a graphic artist in this course? No. How about the people that say, I'm not an artist? That is a cop-out, my friends, right? We can all be technical artists in this course, right? Which means we can use some of the tools like Photoshop. Anyone not used Photoshop before, right? You guys should all know some kind of, you never used Photoshop before? Some kind of graphic tool. Photoshop, even Paint, can be used to create a very simple logo. Doesn't have to be beautiful. Please don't copy somebody else's logo, right? So don't go out and grab Apple's logo and put your name on it. That would be bad, right? Get a logo, make a logo by putting things together that really reflect you. You mean it could be as simple as your initials of your name, right? In a stylized form, fatter letters or whatever you want to call it. Some people do that when they make a logo. Some people use some basic shapes, primitives like circles and squares and hexagons. That's a very popular shape these days when it comes to logo design, right? Sometimes I see like a big P with a hexagon or something like that, and then that's the logo, right? It can be that simple. But you need to put some kind of logo together, and again, with Paint or kind of Photoshop, GIMP if you're an open source tools person, Krita, that's another tool that's now available in open source, been around for a while. All open source tools, as well as Photoshop and Fireworks, which I like to use. I like to use Fireworks when I do my stuff. That's an Adobe product. But you don't have to use fireworks. You can use whatever tool you want to build something very simple. All right, so that's one requirement. So you need to be able to put a logo on your page, a recent image of you. It's got to be a picture, all right? So, and by the way, please make it professional, right? So when you talk about, a picture of yourself, I don't want any avatars. So don't draw yourself, or anything like that. It's got to be a picture of you. It's got to be, if you don't have a recent picture of you, get a picture done. 2 seconds, get a person to take your picture in front of a wall or a whiteboard, and then it's okay. I mean, it would be nicer to have a professional picture done, but those can run anywhere from $70 to $150, right? Why am I asking you to do something like this? It's not part of the course to do your own picture or whatever. If you don't have anything, any picture that reflects you coding, right? Something that kind of looks at the job you're doing here as a developer or a designer would be nice, right? Because you're going to sell yourself. This little mini portfolio, you can use it as a jump-off point, or maybe a kind of a first step to creating something that as a marketing tool to sell yourself, especially when it comes to having an interview with somebody else or whatever, right? So on one hand, that's one of the aspects of this assignment, right? Putting together some stuff. I also want to know a little bit about you when it comes to web design. So this is another opportunity for you to show me your stuff. Show me what you can do, right? On the other aspect, you're going to be using JavaScript to pump out the data, all the content of your page. You're going to use JavaScript to put it into the page, as opposed to putting it directly into your HTML. So you're not going to type your content directly into your HTML. You're going to hold it somewhere in some kind of variables or arrays or something we're going to talk about, and this week and next week, and then you'll be able to create your mini portfolio site. Okay. You also need a contact page, some way. It doesn't have to work, by the way. The contact page has to be a form that you create, right? And you guys have done forms, I'm hoping, from HTML5 and CSS3, that course, the original course you guys took, like an intro to web or something, where you did your HTML5 and CSS. You should know how to do a basic form, right? I want you to create a form that asks user for input. Now, the input's not going to go anywhere in this iteration of your page. It's just going to be reflective of a contact page. It's going to be a placeholder for now, okay? Anything you put on the form, though, any images and those kind of things, we can use JavaScript to put in there, and we'll talk about how to do that, right? So again, there's 2 aspects to this thing. One, there's a design aspect. Show me what you can do. Second is, and also give me a little bit of information about you, right? And the second part is, can I use JavaScript to inject content, because this course is about JavaScript, onto the page, as opposed to directly putting it on the page, right? And I've done this a bunch of times with this kind of this assignment, and I've gotten mixed results. Here's some of the challenges that I have. I don't know how to do a logo, so I don't include a logo. That's just crazy. Not including stuff that I asked you to do is worth quite a bit of marks, actually. So take a look at the requirements. A bio page, all right? A contacts page, a projects page. Those are your 3 pages, right? So your bio page, or you can call it an About Me page, would include a personal logo, a recent image of you, and a short paragraph that outlines your personal mission. Example would be something like, and this might be your main page, it would be something like this, a designer with flair, like some one-liner, like that kind of tells you what you are, right? We're going to look at some examples, by the way. I'm not going to just go do it, right? There's some examples we can look at online after this. Again, what it says is all the text in the page that describes you should come from string variables in your app.js file. So that's the technical aspect. So there's the design aspect, it's about you, and the technical aspect, we're going to get JavaScript to pump it out there, right? B, a contact page, include a short form that asks the user for their contact information, name, contact number, and short message. And when the user clicks on the submit button, the form will take the user back to the bio page or your home page, right? There isn't any processing. I'm not expecting you to connect this form to make it really work. If you make it really work, if it really works, right, and you can prove that, I would give you a bonus for doing that, right? But it's not required for this assignment. Part C of 1, right? Projects page. Now, you should have at least a few things you've worked on over the course of a couple of semesters now, right? Or this would be what, semester 2 we're sitting in right now? Yes? That means last semester you might have built something, right? Maybe you're working on something this semester, some kind of other project or whatever. I want you to put together, maybe you did your own project, like you did your own website somewhere. I want you to put 3 things So 3 images of your favorite projects. It could be something, and I want you to try and keep it related to the web or development or something like that, right? So don't put, you know, I'm a carpenter on the side, and here's my carpentry project. What if you're a sculptor? See, you're more of a designer, you're a sculptor. You might show yourself, you know, doing a sculpture of some kind. No problem. If you're a painter, right, which can be related to your artistic style, especially if it relates to web design, you're more of a designer. Show your painting, show that kind of stuff. That could be something that you want to show. Or it could be something technical. I've got a website, website A, website B, website C. There you go, 3 projects, right? So show me those projects. They should include things like text and images of your 3 basic projects. The text for each of the project, though, will come from string variables in your app.js. The images you can place inside the page, all right? So you don't have to make JavaScript happen like that, right? So really, there's 3 pages. Now, each of the pages is going to have a common nav bar, right? A navigation scheme, right? So you're going to copy that nav bar from one page to the other, making sure that they all link together. Some way of navigating from one to the other. It doesn't have to be a top nav bar. You could make it a side nav, right? Or something that makes sense for your page. This is your content. This is your style that you want to show me, right? And I've seen various changes to that. That's it. Those are the 3 things I want you to do with a nav bar, right? Now, structured-wise, you should create a contents folder. I've asked you for that last week. Remember I talked about how to set up your folders, a contents folder, a scripts folder. Contents folder will hold your CSS. Scripts folder will hold your JavaScript files. I'll ask you to include the Bootstrap framework. Please use Bootstrap for this. Don't kill yourself with CSS this iteration. If you want to use, in the past, people have asked me, should I use, instead of Bootstrap, can I do a Bootstrap template? No. No templates. Please Bootstrap only, right? Templates mean you can download a template and it's nothing to do with you and it looks beautiful. That's like a WordPress template, like a plugin, right? So no templates, please. Don't ask me for templates. This is you with Bootstrap. What if you don't want to use Bootstrap? What if you want to code your CSS on your own? I would accept that. If you said, Tom, I don't want to use Bootstrap, I can make my own responsive layout, all the power. What if you don't, instead of Bootstrap, do you want to use Foundation or some other framework? Fine, but no templates. If you're going to go gravitate toward a template, like from Theme Forest, you're going down the wrong way. This is not that exercise, okay? All right, also, font awesome icons. We're going to talk about how to get those. I recommend some kind of icons in combination with your Bootstrap. I recommend Font Awesome. You can also use other icon libraries, but your navigation you might want to think about including icons with your navigation in other parts of your page, right? Because it makes it more interesting. Font icons are lighter than other vector graphics, and they load much faster, right? So that's why I'm recommending a font icon library. There are marks associated with these things, so please take a look. 2 marks for your Bootstrap or some kind of CSS framework, 2 marks for your icon library, whatever you choose to use, right? To make your job easier. Internal documentation, this means comments, and I'm looking for a comment header. This is with your JavaScript comments. It should be in your CSS as well. So some kind of comments that say, this is my CSS file, and it should include your name, right? The file name, your author's name, the website name, a file description, and your student number, right? Why am I asking for this? Because it proves that you did it. Right, part of it. I want you to stamp everything, your name on all your pages, except for your HTML. HTML, I've had some mixed results with that. People, stamp their information on the top of the page, and your HTML page doesn't work somehow. So definitely on the CSS and JavaScript. We'll talk about how to do with HTML. Make sure you use contextual variable names with your JavaScript. So don't just use X's and Y's, right? Because that doesn't make, or I's and J's. Makes no sense. If you're going to count something, use count. Right? Make sure that it makes sense. If I can read your code, so to speak, and we'll talk about that. Inline comments. If you're doing something that's different, and you want to explain what you're doing in that particular couple of lines, you can use inline comments to describe a couple pieces of code. But don't over-comment. Don't comment every single line of code. That'll drive me crazy because no one does that in the real world. In fact, we try and be as simple as possible, right? And straightforward so that you don't overdo it. Overdoing it is worse than not having comments at all. Share your files on GitHub to demonstrate version control best practices. We talked about GitHub last week. Remember I told you it's going to be worth 4 marks every time you do an assignment. And 4 marks for something called cloud hosting or hosting. You're going to host this thing somewhere. I want all of your assignments, because this is a web course, to be live. All right? They have to be live somewhere. There's lots of free areas you can host it. And so DreamHost would be one. And there's others. There's also some school servers that are available to you as well, right? You can look at that as well. Please don't try and host it at home. That would be bad, right? Microsoft Azure, if you're a student, you get free Microsoft Azure access while you're doing this, as well as others. There's lots and lots of other ones, and we'll talk about that, how to do hosting. Okay, so it's got to be live somehow. If you just put it up on the repository, just put it up there on GitHub, you get 2 marks. And if your repository includes comments that demonstrate that you're using GitHub and Git regularly, you get an extra 2 marks. Otherwise, if you just make it a backup, you're going to lose 2 marks automatically, right? You must deploy your site to some kind of cloud server using Git or some kind of host. And that's why I put in other web hosts down here, right? Because maybe you can't do a cloud host. Maybe you don't know how to sign up for Visual Studio, Microsoft Azure or whatever. I'll give you some options, but you need to put it somewhere, right? And there's lots of choices. Okay, so submitting your work, you need the zip archive of all your project files, a link to your GitHub repository, and a link to your live website somewhere, wherever it's being hosted, okay? Why these 3 things? Because we're the web. Remember I told you, web is probably the most difficult stuff to train on because of stuff that changes all the time, right? A little bit of a rubric to see where I'm getting your marks. This is where it comes from. And then this is worth 15% of your final grade. Now, this is not a difficult assignment, right? You're going to get ones that are more difficult than this one. Like I said, each one of them is going to be worth the same, so that way you can do better on some. And then if you do a little bit worse on others, it kind of balances itself out. We will have a midterm, like I said, week 7, which is worth 20% of your final grade. And it'll cover the stuff that we're doing here in class for assignment 1 and assignment 2. So if you've done assignment 1 and assignment 2, by the time you get your midterm will be easy, right? If you haven't touched assignment 1 or assignment 2, or if you've given it someone else to code for you, right, which is possible and dumb, right, you'll have trouble, real trouble on your midterm, because I'm going to ask you to do stuff within a timed exercise, even though it'll be open book. Open book is not a good thing. I told you. Open book, when a professor gives you open book, he says, well, they got access to everything, which means I can ask them to do all these little things, right? As opposed to if you don't have open book, then you have to memorize stuff. You know, it's not as difficult sometimes. Anyways, questions around assignment 1. This is due, just to remind you, and I would book it in your calendars if I were you, and I would start on it immediately. I'm going to give you some time in class today to do this. You should start on this today, if you can. It's due Tuesday, January the 31st at midnight. So that's not next Tuesday, but the following Tuesday. So 2 Tuesdays from now, right? This is not a group assignment. This is about you. So please don't combine or work with anybody else on this one, okay? So any questions? Mini portfolio, yes?
Do we need to make 3 different pages, or we can go for 1 page and we can scroll it down? And
that's a great question. So you're asking, can I make a single page application, a spot, right? If you will. I'm okay with that. As long as it looks to the user that there's 3 sections, 3 panels, if you will, in your page. Yes, you can do that. It would make your navigation easy. You're still going to have your navigation. It's just going to teleport you down to that part, right? And again, it's a very common thing to do, but no themes. So no, don't try and use a theme like that, because I'm asking you not to use any themes from Bootstrap. So no Bootstrap theming. It's just straight you coding a page. Show me what you can do. Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
Like I have my own domain name, so can I use that one for live website?
Yes, you can use your own domain, and I kind of shared this with you last time. If you look at Slack. Remember last week, I kind of talked about, this one. On Slack, I kind of shared with you that there is, we're going to be using Slack for this stuff. There is the GitHub educational pack. I kind of showed it to you last week. Let me put it up on Slack as a link. So if you haven't joined Slack, by the way, please join Slack today, right? Slack I'm going to be communicating with regularly. If you look at the GitHub educational pack, right? So it's education.github.com. I'm just going to take this. And we'll get the pack I'll take this whole thing and put it up on Slack for you. So take a look at this. So here's the GitHub education pack. Highly recommend, right? What this gives you, if you're someone who's new to GitHub and to the web, is it gives you some free stuff. One of the things it does is it gives you some time with DigitalOcean. So if DigitalOcean is a software company in Toronto, a software as a service, where you can create your own virtual machine, a hosting solution for yourself. It takes a little bit of effort to set up, but it is, you get $50 of platform credits for new users on DigitalOcean. That's really cool. You also get, which is cool, unlimited private repositories with GitHub, right? So when you sign up, you contact GitHub, and then you get some unlimited why would I want you to do private repositories? Because this way you can protect your code, no one else can see it, and you can make me a collaborator with you on GitHub, and then you and I can see your code, but nobody else, right? So that's one way to do that. Microsoft Imagine is now what we're using for, it used to be called DreamSpark, is Microsoft Azure, and it tells you how to sign up with Microsoft Azure for free for a year, right? Which is kind of cool, as long as you're a student, and you'll have access to create web apps on the cloud. And this is one optional solution. Now, this takes a little bit of time and effort to set up, just FYI. If you don't have Microsoft Azure, you've never heard of it, I will go over it. But setting up Microsoft Azure these days can be a bit of a challenge, right? Because they've changed their process. And I will show you some places where you can do it. Namecheap, you get free as a self-certificate, like I talked about last time, and 1-year domain registration. So if you want your own domain name, you can point it to some kind of service as well, right? So I'll take a look at this. I guess that's a really cool little pack, and I think I've talked about that last week. From Microsoft Azure, I highly recommend you go through the E5 on the hub link, and I'll try and put that there for you. So what is that? If I look, they used to be called Microsoft DreamSpark. It's this link, Microsoft Imagine. Notice on the top left, it says Microsoft Azure for Students. So if you want to have a cloud hosting service with Microsoft Azure, sign up for this one. And I'll put this link on Slack. So this is link to E5 on the hub, which is basically discounts from Microsoft, right? That is the discount store for students here at Georgia. Okay, so please, if you don't know where that is, this is it. And what you do is you go to that link, right? And if it tells you to sign up or register for Azure, right? And it says that available to students, to faculty and staff, you can add this to cart. And what happens is you can create your web app, and it looks something like this. If I was to go to Microsoft Azure, right? Here's a solution, and I'm going to portal.azure.com. That's how you get to, after you sign up, it'll take you here. And if I want to, I can set up a web app, right? So I can go to a new app. I can choose web, and I'm recording this, but I'm going to do this again with you later on when it becomes more urgent to do. Web and mobile, I'm going to create a web app. And then what you're going to do is you're going to create an app with an original name, right? It has to be the same, kind of good across all Microsoft Azure sites. So it'll be something like yourapp.azurewebsites.net. That's what it'll be called. And then once you've done that, you can upload to this app by using GitHub. You can take GitHub and you can actually point GitHub to this app. I'll show you how to do that later on, okay? And then what happens is it actually takes all the information that you put up on GitHub and transfers it so that your app actually is always connected to GitHub. Any changes you make to or into Azure, any change you make to GitHub is reflected automatically on Azure, which is really cool, right? It's called continuous integration. So that's one option, and there's others. So again, I'm trying to give you some tools to get this done. So again, if you're going to take a look at signing up for Azure, if you ever get to the point where they ask you for money, if they say, please enter your credit card information, you missed something. You should not, as students, be required to enter any credit card info. So if you're asked to do it, you're starting a trial. That means you've missed something or you haven't done the right steps. One thing to note is you cannot sign up with your, if I'm not wrong now, with your Georgian College email. You need to sign up with your own Microsoft account, which means a separate account, nothing to do with Georgian College. Also, sometimes when you sign up, if I sign up with my Chrome here, right? It knows who I am. I'm signed into Chrome, and it knows that what my Hotmail is and my Gmail, and it knows that I'm a professor at Georgian College. It knows because I've signed into Chrome, right? Well, that's a problem, because if I try and sign into Azure, it's going to think that it's my Georgian College email, and that's going to cause an issue. So a lot of times when you sign in or sign up for Azure, do it incognito. Use incognito mode so it doesn't remember who you are, so that you're signing in for the first time. Don't use regular Chrome or Firefox. Go private or incognito, and that'll solve a lot of your issues. Once you start going with regular Chrome or Firefox, because your identity is cached, right? It'll think you're a Georgian College student, and then you'll ask you for money. All right, that's not what we want, right? We want to sign up with your own account. So please follow the steps here. I think they've improved it over the last, I would say, 4 months or so. So it's a little easier for you to sign up. You have to go to add to cart, right? You sign in, right? As an example, make sure if you haven't registered, you have to register. So I'm going to sign in here. Hopefully it'll remember no, it doesn't, right? So because things have changed for me. Let's see if I can actually remember my login to prove to you that it works. And this might be a couple of attempts here. No, I have one more try before they lock me out. I don't care if they lock me out. So it could be no. And if that happens, you might be locked out, but that's okay. If you forgot your password, you can click on this link and it'll take you down here and reset your password. When you get here though, it'll actually add it onto the link and it'll give you instructions on what to do to log into Microsoft Azure and to subscribe for Microsoft Imagine. Clear? So please try and follow this. The good thing is for Georgian College, we use Microsoft Imagine Premium, which allows you things like a web server online, as well as one free MySQL database, right? And a bunch of other little things that Microsoft Microsoft Azure gives you. So please sign up and register for this. It's a free service for students. Okay. So that is part of assignment 1. The other part of assignment 1 is let's look at some examples of portfolio sites. I always like to look at, and I kind of do this for my courses, the awards website. Anyone here the awards website? You guys seen that before? No? Oh, you have. And I've seen you've done it because we've been together before. Anyone else ever seen the awards website? It's interesting. It's a site that's kind of does awards for kind of really cool websites. They basically base it on design, usability, creativity, and content. They rate a website, and there's several that they'll do. They look at different kind of websites, and usually there's lots of it. There's images and style, and design aspects, and so on. One thing you can do here in the awards website, so www.awww awards, right? You can also search for other websites that you want to look for that are kind of close to what you're looking for. Right? So if I click on search for inspiration, as an example, I can search for something like portfolio. I can kind of enter that in, and you can see that there might be some portfolio sites. Now, do I need you to do something as crazy as these sites? No, but I want to give you some ideas, right? So let's take a look at this one. So this is rated pretty good, 7.8. For design, 7.4 for usability, 7.9 for creativity, and 7. You might say that's good, Tom. Yeah, getting 8s is really hard from this site, right? Anything 8s or 9s. Let's look at the website and see what it looks like. This is Jenny Johansson. I'm just picking a random one. I have no affiliation with Jenny Johansson, right? But you can see that there's a bit of mystery to the site. What's going on here, right? Is it loading? Is that what's happening here? What's happening, right? Takes a little bit of time to set up. Well, yeah, it's loading. That's the loading percent. So it looks like she's loading a bunch of assets. That's interesting, an interesting way of doing stuff. She's making us wait, though, to me, and that's a bad thing, right? Making someone wait. If I wait more than 2 seconds for a website, I'm leaving the website, right? I know it's like I got the attention of like a fly when it comes to waiting for websites. But let's see if it's worth the wait, right? So this is cool. So this is her logo, right? She kind of stylized her name, right? That's kind of neat, right? That's what she did there. She's got some gradient in there too, right? So not just straight colors, some gradient color in there. Looks like it's a single page application with a lot of little animation and transitions. So that's kind of cool, right? As you move from one to the other, if I keep kind of scrolling down, I'm just going to keep scrolling here. And you can see that this is her work, right? She's showing you what she's worked on before. right? Some of her portfolio of her job, right, her works. Some kind of mobile apps that she's built, recognition that she's gotten as an artist and as a designer, right? That's, really good. Some kind of experience that she has. You can also view her on LinkedIn, some stuff here. Some social websites that she's kind of connected to, Twitter and Dribble and Instagram. So she's done logo work and other kinds of pictures and stuff like that. Really cool. Right? So really cool. And if I click on this link, the hamburger, this is the dreaded hamburger, right? If I click on this hamburger, you can see that it's going to probably give me some kind of navigation for home, internet.org, Bluey. These are all the things she's worked on, right? Okay, so pretty good. And there's like her contact information. If I click this, it's going to bring up my email, right? To try and get me to contact her, which is, kind of a nifty way to contact. She doesn't have a form necessarily. She just has you email her directly. So that's one. So some kind of nice elements there. And some elements I don't like, but that's just me, right? Let's take a look at some others, right? So there's a couple of other ones here. Let's look at this one. All right, again in the 7s, so it's not so bad. Let's look at the website, right? Now this is a French site, so because it's .fr, right? Okay, so that's a little bit of a gimmick. Let me load some stuff. Thank you that you're here. Hopefully it won't take as long as Jenny's, right? Although it does seem that these people have done a lot of image work here, and that's why you're preloading all your images. It's actually this is a good practice, preloading images. The reason why it's good is because I don't have to load my images as I go, right? If I have to load every single page that I'm on, that's an issue, right? But if I load for one time, that's a little better. So that's kind of cool. So she's got a bit of a kind of like a gallery of something that she's showing here, right? But it's not a standard gallery, yeah. It's not some kind of slideshow. Slideshows are out, right? This is kind of neat what she's done here, right? So here's her works. That's the first thing she's showing us, and this is the number. This is what we're looking at here, which is kind of neat. Some interesting navigation. Let's take a look at the About page. So who is she? French creative developer based in Los Angeles. That's nice. Nice weather down there, right? So she's a student from Paris, right? And she's available for freelance. And she's got GitHub, so her code's on GitHub, which is good. You should put your stuff on GitHub as well. A way to contact her with mail, Twitter, CodePen. So she's done some stuff up on CodePen, some little snippets and things on CodePen, and other things, right? Let's take a look at Lab. And then she's got a subdomain here that she set up, right? So again, you can see that everyone's got a bit of a style to her, to their website, right? Some things I like about Jenny's and some things I like here about Quarantine, right? There's some things I like about both, and some things I don't like. I don't like the fact that it takes a long time for us to load this content. I could have gone to 2 other pages by now, right? So that's an issue. And sometimes that's because, I'm putting it out there, it's because there's lots to load and the images aren't compressed properly or whatever. It could also be my connection, right? Our connection here at Georgian isn't always the best, and I'm also streaming live, right? So that might be causing me a bit of a slowdown. But to me, this is endemic of something that she's trying to load that's big. There's probably, this kind of stuff, right? Now, this is impressive. You can see that she's done a few experiments in 3D and all that kind of stuff, some kind of experiments for her. She's working on some stuff. She's showing you what she's working on, and this is why she's called this part the lab, right? Which is kind of cool. So again, that's one side. One more, and then we'll stop. So this is her, right? And we'll go back one, and we'll look at one more. So it's going to scroll down to see someone else. Okay. Okay, another guy. And let's take a look a little higher. Oh, he's got even an 8 when it comes to creativity. That's rare. 8s. Okay, cool. Let's take a look at this, right? A bit of a, again, this is a common theme, with these 3 websites. It's almost like there's a bit of mystery what's going on here, right? Oh, that's cool. That's very cool.
So how close do you want us to get to this?
Nowhere near, right? I'm showing you their creativity, right? Do what you know how to do here. If you don't know how, I don't expect you to know how to do any of this stuff. How do you think this was done, by the way? Anyone have an idea how this was done? WebGL, most likely. I'll tell you right now. This is probably done with WebGL. What's happened here is they're using WebGL, which is a way of creating almost like this particle effect system in the background, which is kind of neat. Okay. more advanced stuff. Neat. You know, it gives you a bit of a look and feel. There's a lot of grays in this little scene. It could also be a movie. That's another way that they could have done this. They could have used something like a Maya or a Blender or 3D Studio Max to create a little movie, and they've got this movie in the background. Notice if I move my mouse to right or left, it moves. That's kind of neat, right? If I scroll down, that goes up, and you can see some of this stuff. That's neat. So if I kind of, it's almost like I got a bit of a ripple effect when I look at the picture. So some interesting effects that he's put in there, right? Same thing now. It's probably going to be the same thing with some of the things he's done. That's neat that he's worked on the Magicians, right? Ever read the book Magicians or seen the show? It's kind of cool. So kind of some of his works that he's worked on. But so again, what we're seeing here is some of the work that he's done, and he looks to be more of a creative artist. Not just, it's not really a web design site, more of, I mean, it's really neat as a web design site, but it looks like he's done a lot of images and photo manipulation, that kind of stuff, right, that he's been doing on his website. So where is his link? Well, here's about. That's neat. So he's got his navigation all over the place. Here's an about page, right? That's neat. Hello, is it me you're looking for? Kind of a tacky logo, or the tacky log line, right? That's right out of, that's a ripoff from Lionel Richie right there, right? But I'm saying one thing to note is I can't highlight or, you know, do anything with it. Look, I'm trying to select it. I can't select any of it, right? That's something he did on purpose. Again, you're looking at some rasterization here in the background. This is, again, some kind of 3D effect with particle systems in WebGL. Right? That's how he's done this thing, right? Most likely. And he's based out of Toronto, just by chance. That's unusually rare. Usually it's LA or someplace around the world, right? So he's got his social icons there with Twitter, Behance, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Instagram, and so on. And I recommend that for you too. You should have a few of those as well. Try and keep them clean. Try not to include your Facebook. Most of the times Facebook is not really for professional reasons. People are going to search you out. If I hire you, you know, if I kind of do an interview with you, I'm going to look who you are. Who are you? Where'd you come from? What's your work? Show me your stuff. You know, that kind of stuff. LinkedIn is good for that. GitHub is good for that, right? Because people can search you on GitHub. And other ones, Twitter. If you actually have a Twitter feed and you do anything there, that's cool. That's okay. But if you don't, if it's just idle, don't include it, because that doesn't make any sense, right? Pinterest for him makes sense, right? Because Pinterest and Instagram, he's definitely going to do stuff on Pinterest and Instagram because he's more of a graphic artist or some kind of photographer or something, right? So he's a digital designer is what he says he is. He's a digital designer currently working at Jam3, some company in Toronto, all right? So this is your task is to build a portfolio site. It doesn't have to be as beautiful and crazy as these, right? But think about what's going to represent you. This is an opportunity for you to put something together within a couple weeks. Is it going to be the final version of the one you're going to create for, you know, your portfolio? No way. It's a mini portfolio site with 3 pages. If you've done a portfolio site before, you can reuse some of the content, but you might want to update it. You might want to update your content. Remember, a lot of the text that's going to be on the portfolio website is going to be through JavaScript. That's the gimmick that we're going to be using, right, to have that happen, so you can learn JavaScript. Look at this, coded with hate, love, and drugs by Samsey, right? So this other guy did the website, this guy, right? Samsey Ninja. That's neat. Or this, it looks like, yeah, this is another guy that actually built the website. The website was made for that other guy in Toronto, but this guy built it, right? So that's kind of neat. Okay. Any questions about your portfolio site? The stuff that's due in a couple weeks from now, okay? Again, please don't wait to start. Start gathering your materials and all that kind of stuff. You want to talk a little bit about you. Sometimes the biggest problem is we don't like talking about ourselves because it's almost like, you know, you feel a little bit like you're conceited, like, you know, a little bit of conceit. Tom is like the greatest web developer. You know, you want to say these kind of things, right? Because you're afraid of saying that kind of stuff about you. You want to kind of put something that represents you, though, right? You kind of want to be, I don't know, humble and yet, you know, kind of what's called the humble brag, right? The humble brag, right? Where you kind of do like a little bit about yourself, but you're bragging that you're pretty cool anyway, right? I like thinking about it as a movie log line, right? You know, like you think about, you know, Indiana Jones or something like that, right? Sometimes movie log lines is a great way of getting a kind of a log line or kind of a mission statement for you. And if I, you know, kind of look at some common or popular movie log lines, log lines are like little mission statements, right? So here, top 20 movies, right? And let's see if they actually have anything here that they have some kind of log lines that make any sense, right? Because it's neat that when you discover this, so here's number 1, paranormal activity. After moving into suburban home, a couple become increasingly disturbed by nightly demonic presence, right? Now you might think this is like, why does this refer to me as my bio? But it really talks about what this thing is about, right? So that's what I want you to do with your mission statement. Why are you doing this stuff? Why are you here? Talk to me about, you know, are you a designer? Are you a photographer? Are you a developer? Are you a mix of things? What are you doing what you're doing? Put that into a little bit of words. It could be like a one-liner. Please don't give me a CV, okay? So don't give me a whole, like, you know, I don't want to see your resume, all right? It's too busy. There's too many things there. If you want to offer up your resume, right? And hopefully it'll be on LinkedIn by now, right? Your resume should be copied almost identically on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a better way of sharing. You're sharing your LinkedIn link so people can connect with you, and your resume is up there anyway. But if you really must share your resume because you have this urge to share, right? Put it in a PDF, okay? Please don't give me wrote, this is what I am, and you know, just basically an excerpt from your resume. That's really boring, right? Mad Max, this is good. A vengeful Australian policeman, there we go, sets out to avenge his partner, his wife and his son, whom were murdered by a motorcycle gang in retaliation for the death of their leader, right? It's a little extreme, right? A little bit too much, in fact. But so it might not be you. This isn't you. You're not a, you know, a vindictive, you know, Australian policeman, right? But think about what that means. So who are you? What do you like to do? What are you good at, right? Those kind of things. Some people like to put in things like, here are my levels of skill. I'm really good with HTML, kind of so-so with CSS, and I'm just learning JavaScript. Sometimes it's a good thing and sometimes it's a bad thing, right? Because it's like, okay, so he sucks at JavaScript or she sucks at JavaScript. They're really good with HTML and CSS is okay. It's a beginner. I'm looking at it a beginner here, right? If you're going to put those in there, make sure that, you know, these are all good, right? You know, you want to show off stuff. You don't want to indicate your weaknesses, right? You want to talk to your strengths because this is what your mini portfolio site's all about. Okay, enough about style and portfolio. I'm going to stop recording here for this one. This is all around assignment 1. I want to give you a lot of details so you know what I want, right, for assignment 1, which is in a couple weeks, right? And also talk a little bit about web design in general, and then we're going to get right into JavaScript after the break. Let's take a 5-minute break, go grab some water, go to the washroom, all that kind of stuff. When we come back, right, we're going to get right into JavaScript.